Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing the answers to the questions you guys asked me on my channel and on Instagram. So I'm going to get right to it. I'll be looking down quite a bit, not that you can really see my eyes because I'm outside, so I've got the sunglasses on because it's really bright today, and it was rainy and cool this morning, and right now it's actually really hot outside. So that's spring in Oklahoma. There will be outside noises, trucks driving by, big 18-wheelers, birds, etc. So we'll just do the best we can, but I'm going to go right into it. The first, and I haven't pre-prepared the answers to these questions, so this will be a little bit off the cuff, a little bit, fun. So anyway, the first question I'm going to answer, this was from Flossie from the Grape Jelly Library, and she asked me this on Instagram, and she wants to know about my workout routine. I am a certified personal trainer, group exercise instructor, and Pilates instructor, and she wants to know, like, what exercise routines do I do? Do I do different things on different days, morning, afternoon, evening? And the first thing that I'll say is, as far as exercise goes, the most important thing is do what you will actually do. I will give recommendations of what I think as a fitness professional is best, but the best exercise routine is the one that you will actually do. So if you know that you're supposed to be getting this amount of cardio and this amount of strength training and blah, 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 but you will not do it, but you'll go to a fun like Zumba class or something like that, then that's what you should do. Of course, we want you to get mobility and flexibility training, all that. But for me, I actually, mostly I don't do full-time stuff anymore because I homeschool my kids, but there are 2 classes a week that are scheduled in my schedule. On Monday, I teach a bar class during the school year, and it'll be a little different. It'll be a cardio school class next year to teenage girls. And so I get a bar workout in that, lots of lower body, postural training, core work, a combination of like Pilates and stuff. And then on Thursdays, I always do Pilates because I do a Pilates class. Now, one of those classes in the afternoon, one's in the morning. I tend to feel that like it's better if you do a morning class, but I can't always do that because my boys do best if they start school straight out. If it was just my daughter, who is 15 and has a more of a teenagey sleeping schedule, my 13 and my 10.5-year-old are not like that way. So several days a week I do early afternoons. So I always try to get some good strength training in. I think that women and men should be lifting weights if they can, because we start to lose that muscle mass, and that is really important. The thing I love about Pilates, what I fell in love with, it has a strengthening, a stretching, and a massaging component. So that is so great. Core strength is so important for the overall health of your body. I did Pilates safely, within the guidelines of pregnancy through all 3 of my pregnancies up until literally the day I would give birth. And that helped so much with how I felt. And I helped that core strength, so I didn't have as much lower back pain as maybe a lot of people do. Now, we won't talk about the rib pain because my kids were all up in my rib cage, but anyway, so I think that it's good to have that. And then I always try to get like a cardio hit in. Now, the length of time varies. If I can do a longer workout, I will, but if you can only get 10 to 20 minutes in, and that's all you can get, make it count. Do a more intense exercise. Wednesdays are such crazy days for me. I usually do a cardio hit, make myself sweat like crazy, then go take a quick shower. But every day I also use a foam roller after I work out to massage the tension out of my muscles, and I always do flexibility training. And it's good to have recovery time too. Have 1 day a week off, maybe 2, depending on how you're feeling. And I think that's really important. So this is probably a longer answer than my other answers will be, but I just wanted to address that, strength training, getting some Pilates, something flexibility, core strength is really important. And getting your heart rate up is going to be great for your heart health. And also, just like I said at the beginning, do what you will actually do, because that is so much better than nothing, right? And so I think, if you do it in the morning, it will help with your metabolism throughout the whole day. But I can't always do that. So do it again when you will do it. So that is my not perfect answer. Sorry, there was a bug. All right, now I'm going to get to some other questions. Chris Reviews tells me congratulations, and she wants to know what types of books I read as a kid. I loved the American Girl books. That was like, especially Samantha. My love of historical fiction started there. I loved Narnia. I loved fantasy type stuff. That in that sense, I loved all the children's classics like Secret Garden, Summer of the Monkeys. I mentioned before, I have a 3rd grade teacher that like introduced us to those types of books. And I read lots of Nancy Drew, my love of mysteries. And then I loved The Babysitter's Club, which I know a lot of people think that's just kind of fluff, not a lot of heart, but I loved kids so much. So hearing like about babysitting, when I was little, I was like, I want to be a babysitter when I'm big. And I was a babysitter. I babysat a lot when I was a teenager. And even, when I had my own kids, there was one summer where I had 4 others join my fold. I had a friend that she had to get her nurse practitioner hours in, and she was also a homeschooler, and I took all 4 of her kids. One of them was an infant, and I had my 3, and I had 7 kids for summer. I loved it. All right, but Babysitter Club, like my love of kids was just like it ignited that even more. So there were so many other books, but those are just a few. Molly J Books tells me congratulations as well. Thank you. What made me want to start this channel? I started watching some BookTube when the pandemic started, and I didn't really know it existed before. I had read like a fantasy book that no one else I knew had read, and I looked it up online. And of course, these were bigger BookTube channels, of course, that popped up. And, I really felt like it was something I was supposed to do. And I thought about a friend of mine, Regina Jennings, actually writes Christian historical fiction romance. And I remember and I wasn't even a part of the conversation. I remember sitting in the mom's room at our homeschool co-op, and I was like getting some work done. And someone asked her like, what got you started writing? And she told them little things she'd done. And then she realized that saying no to continuing to write would be saying no to what God wanted her to do. And I'm so glad that I did come on BookTube, because and thinking about that had influenced me, because I have made so many amazing friends. It's unbelievable. She also asked what my faith journey is. So when I was 4 years old, I was sitting in church, and my mom was taking communion, and I was like, where's my juice and my cracker? We're from an evangelical background, so we don't use real wine, although like literally I don't know why Jesus drank wine. I guess that could spark a whole debate, but anyway, I was like, why don't I get any? And my mother basically that night told me really the story about Christ's sacrifice and his blood. Of course I knew it. I knew about Christmas and Easter, but I literally remember thinking that, I'm a good girl, I'll go to heaven someday, and because I'm a good girl. And then it's like, no, it's Christ that did that for us, his sacrifice. And I know I have a lot of people on here who have different faith backgrounds, but I am a Christian, and that's a big part of my life. And so my mom describing, how, animal sacrifice is what, the Israelites had done before, and then, what Jewish people still do. But we believe that Christ made that sacrifice for our sins. And so, without the shedding blood, there is no cleansing of sin. So that really affected me, and that is where my faith journey started. There were times over the years where I definitely had idols outside of the Lord. I was a ballet dancer, and my biggest idol was being thin enough. I never ever had a weight problem. I was size 2 or 3, and at my thinnest, I was told I needed to lose about 15 pounds. And I saw a picture of me recently where you could like see every single one of my ribs. And thank God it's not quite that strict anymore for those that are wanting to become a dancer, but that is the profession that I was choosing and I was going into. And so weight and different things like that were idols. And the Lord had to really, speak to me on that. And marriage and children helped me with that. When you are supporting someone's life with your food choices, your relationship with food changes. And thank the Lord, I had a good mother, who made sure that I was eating well when I was a teenager, even though, I was striving for a certain weight. So the Lord has really, and he's been with me. I'll talk about it because someone else asks a similar question. When I get to that question, been with me through some crazy things. Then Courtney Reeds says, do you have a favorite book you've read based on a booktuber recommendation? And honestly, the first book that comes to my mind, Courtney, is just like you gave me, the bravery, because I knew I would do it with you, to read Crime and Punishment. And I've loved all of our Dostoevsky reads, but it was really, Crime and Punishment was my first Dostoevsky and is probably, the one closest to my heart. I would also say the one that I just absolutely loved. Other one would be Dia. I knew that she loved Wives and Daughters, and we buddy read that by Elizabeth Gaskell. So yeah, love it. All right, Emily Kate is reading and praying, said she has 3 questions. 1, what books or book characters do you look to as an inspiration for strength, patience, and fortitude when you're going through a difficult time? Oh, Emily. That is such a good question. I've joked that I should be like the Anne of Green Gables Secret Garden channel should be in my name because I talk about it so much. But I love Anne. She was an orphan. She didn't come from much, but she had just spunk and fortitude. And, that book does talk quite a bit. Anne of Green Gables series does talk quite a bit about faith. And then I would say the March sisters from Little Women, they all have something to give. Number 2, how has being a Christian shaped how you view and read books and how you read fiction? That's another good question. There's certain books I just stay away from. I don't read smutty books. And there are some books like fantasy writers that I love that I know there's going to be some in them. So I am prepared to page flip, past certain things. But there are certain books I'll read and I will feel like literally like the Holy Spirit is saying, put that book down. I did not know much. I didn't know that anything about Colleen Hoover, but I'd heard people recommending Verity right and left. So I read it and I felt the Holy Spirit say, girl, put that book down. And I didn't finish it. And then 3, is there one book that you would say is your family book, a book that you all love that lifts you up as a family? So we all love Chronicles of Narnia, and then the Wing Feather Saga series. We read that as a family, and it just there's so much depth to that middle grade series by Andrew Peterson. Love it, and it just it just hit us in our hearts. We loved it. Read by Fred said, happy booktube anniversary, Kelly. Are you on a farm? If so, what do you grow, raise? If not, do you garden? If so, what do you grow? This isn't my land, guys. This isn't my land. This is my neighbor's land. We live in track housing, and we are lucky enough to be at the end of a dead-end street that goes right into a farm. So this is our neighbor farmer's land, and it's beautiful and gorgeous. And I've been told that when he passes away, his kids are going to sell it to the people that built our track home. And we're praying he has a really, really, really long and happy life. All right, for more reasons than one. And then, do I garden or grow food is another thing he asked. And so we're getting ready to start our garden, and we're going to do a lot of strawberries and some herbs around the strawberries that support them. We're going to do those in little square foot containers. Those are going to be kind of what my kids want to do. Do you see behind me? It might start raining on me any minute. starting to get cloudy on that direction. And over here, it's still bright blue. So I will try to hurry, and then I might have to finish this inside. But yeah, so I'm also going to do some tomatoes, some cucumbers. We might do some pumpkins and watermelon for sure. And that's all I know for sure yet. In Search of Wonders says, my question is, what was the first channel that got you hooked on BookTube, and what inspired you to start your own channel? Okay, so I think I kind of already answered that, but the first channel that I found, and they read more popular books than I do most of the time. I was reading a Cassandra Clare book, and she writes YA fantasy. And she's one that, I actually have to page turn occasionally, just FYI. And I wanted to know, I didn't know anybody else that had read that. And so I got on BookTube, and it was Polis Banana Books. Yeah, she's got a big channel, Christine Riccio, and that's the first person I found, and she was probably one of the first people that made a name on BookTube. So BookTube was showing me a big channel, and it really wasn't until I decided to actually join and found the BookTube newbie tag and things like that, and saw who other people were following, that I found smaller channels 10,000 people and under. So that was exciting when I found the smaller channels. All right, Candlewick Library asked, did you always know you would homeschool your kids? If not, what made you decide to? I didn't always know. We used to live in California, and I thought maybe that we would have our kids, because the private school was pretty affordable. If we could swing it, maybe our kids would go to that school. I don't think we would have been able to swing it, even with as affordable as it was. But it actually ended up closing down about the time that we moved to Oklahoma. I was homeschooled 6th grade up, so it was always an option in my head. But I'm so thankful we decided to. The reason I decided to was actually the amount of quality time, and just the being together. It is important that your children have influences outside of yourself, and we're careful of who those influences are. We want them to be able to thrive outside of our home as well. But the quality time, thing really made a difference for me. The book Capri, your top 3 books of 2024. Oh gosh. I'm going to have to go off the cuff on this one. So I would say Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. The next one that comes to my head is Gentle and Lowly, and I'm blanking on the author's name, but it's kind of, it really speaks to someone who struggles not to be legalistic in their Christian faith. And then, oh gosh, what's another one? I would say The Phantom Tollbooth. That's another middle grade book. So funny. It made me laugh so hard, and it's all wordplay. Morgan's Endless Bookshelf. Which book characters are you most like? What's been your favorite book you've read to your kids? So I've talked a little bit about the favorite book thing. I will say another favorite series we've read is the Green Ember series by S.D. Smith. Just so rich. Anthropomorphic bunnies, fighting against evil wolves and stuff, but so rich, so wonderful. I always say that I'm a little piece of the Little Women in different ways. Book character I most like the creativity for Jo, the really honoring, being a wife and mother, I would say Meg. Amy, I can be selfishly impetuous sometimes. And then Beth, I am just an introvert that likes my house. Just Book TV Girl says, do you live anywhere near where they filmed The Outsiders? Okay, Jess, I do not live near there anymore, but I grew up right by it. The TV screen was not the TV screen. it's been a long week. So yes, I grew up by it. So the Tasty Freeze and the Dairy Queen and the, why do I keep wanting to say TV screen? So the drive-in movie theater were all by where I grew up. So yes. All right, so I had to go to my community section of YouTube to get the rest of my questions. So Dawn's Book Review, who just recently celebrated a BookTube anniversary, she asked, what do you enjoy most about YouTube? And I would say the relationships are the best. Just everybody coming from different backgrounds and beliefs and ideas about things and books and reading and just coming together in a loving and kind way, no matter how different their beliefs or their ideas about things are. I just love that. And then Chrissy asked, can you share your salvation testimony? Which I did. I'll share a little bit more in a second about that. And what is your favorite video you have filmed? All right, I would say that my favorite video that I've filmed would be, well, I really like I've done like 2 author tags, and the first one was an Ellen Montgomery tag, and that was so much fun. And the second one, which, you know, it won't be any surprise since I jokingly say that I am the Anne of Green Gables Secret Garden one, was the Frances Hodgson Burnett tag. So I really like those. And I love it I love any time that I've had a friend that has done an original tag that I've been able to do their tags. And as you all know, the Wednesday booktubers to watch Wednesday videos I make where I get to talk about different channels and recommend them. They're very special too. Just a little bit more because I want to, you know, Chrissy asked a faith-based question, and I want to talk a little more. God has been good to me through so many different trials. Adult life is never easy for anyone. A lot of childhood is not easy for anyone. But the first time I really had to trust in the sovereignty of God was in my mid-20s. My dad died in a plane crash very unexpectedly. And, you know, I think that the questions you always ask are, is God good? That happened, and that kind of helped prepare me for some other trials when right after we moved back to Oklahoma, probably about actually a year after we moved back to Oklahoma from California, my oldest son developed a blood disorder. At first they weren't sure whether he had cancer or not, and his platelets plummeted. And it was the first time that I even really questioned whether anything could happen to one of my kids. And I think talking about idolatry, like, you can easily make your husband and kids an idol. It's so easy. You wouldn't get rid of them. Like if you were idolizing like television or something, you could easily just not turn the TV on or get rid of your TV, but you love your husband and your kids, and it would be pretty bad to get rid of them. That kind of helped me for the next huge trial that would happen literally a year later. When we were pregnant with my youngest son, we discovered that he had some severe heart defects going on, and he has been through 4 open heart surgeries and like 6 heart caths and lots of time in the hospital, and he's doing really well. But, you know, he came back from literally the brink of death by God's grace. And then, you know, my husband, about a year and a half ago. Yeah, it was a year and a half ago. He had a stroke, and at first we weren't sure whether he was going to get like be able to live a normal life. And of course there's still repercussions from that stroke, but he went from not being able to add 2 + 2 or tell you the date or the year or anything, his birthday, to being able to work at his job just fine, being able to function. So God has shown us so much grace, but there have been the trials where we had to ask ourselves, is he still good? And the answer is a resounding yes. He is good all the time. And then Chatty, the Mad Chatter, last but definitely not least in my heart, my friend, my fellow middle grade lover. who also celebrated her booktube anniversary around the same time as me, a little bit earlier. So congratulations, Chatty. She said she loves seeing us out and about, enjoy nature. What is one of your favorite places to go and why? Oh gosh, so I am going to answer something not close to me just for privacy reasons. When we lived in California, we loved the Arboretum and we loved Descanso Gardens. So anything like outdoor garden, we love. Not close to me, but in my home state, we love Martin Park Nature Center. And this is like, you know, I love places that are like beautiful nature that are literally 5 minutes from the mall. It's so much fun when like you have just like this beautiful like nature preserve with like a creek and woods and birds and, you know, all that. And then you're like 5 minutes away from the mall. I just love that. It's so much fun when that happens. Like, you know, you've got, you know, just this little pocket of space that is preserved. So much fun. And then she asked if you could go anywhere in a book for the place, not the characters, what would you like to see and why? And Chatty, this is maybe the hardest question. The last question of the day is the absolute hardest. Well, you know, we've been kind of buddy reading a middle grade book wandering series, and the last one that I read, She's Ahead of Me, one book, they went into the secret garden. So I guess I'll say like when the secret garden starts to bloom and come alive. Spoiler alert, the secret garden doesn't stay dead. I'm sorry if I ruined anybody's life by revealing that spoiler. All right, friends, I just want to say thank you so much. You know, so many of you have just shown me such kindness, such grace, such literal love. And I am so thankful that we get to be a part of each other's lives on this platform. Gosh, you know, Chatty is the last one that asked a question that I read. And I remember she lit a candle for my husband after his stroke. And so many stories like that of you that have supported me and stood by me in whatever way you could. And I just want to say thank you. And I hope that you all read a lot. Bye-bye.